Have you ever had a moment when playing Fallout 4 when you've looked at a monster or a building or some object in the game and you've thought, they almost got it. The creature looks great, but there's just something off about it, or the texture isn't quite right? If you answer yes, then have I got a video for you. In this video, we're going to talk about some of my favorite retextures, model, and mesh fixes for Fallout 4. I don't choose mods that break the feel of the game. I don't choose mods that go crazy and add 20th century Russian prison tattoos and all sorts of nonsense like that. Instead, I choose mods that simply enhance the world that we already have in Fallout 4. Many of these mods are going to feel like natural fits. Others will actually fix things that Bethesda ignored. But all of these mods are going to have a focus on textures and meshes with an emphasis on creatures. This is Oxhorn's Mod Muster Creature Textures Special. So I used the console to turn off actor AI and freeze some of these monsters here so that we could do this little demonstration. The first mod on the list today is HD DLC Creature Retextures Rework by GIGGILY. The mod author took the high-resolution textures that came with the recent HD retexture overhaul that Bethesda published a month or so ago. He identified a number of errors in the way that the textures were applied to creatures. So for those who don't know, there are three major parts of creating a creature in the world. The first is the mesh. This gives the creature shape. The second is the texture. This gives the creature color. And the third is the material. I'm not exactly sure what materials are. I'm no mod author. But from my experience, the materials give instructions to the game on how to best match up textures to meshes. Now, there are three parts to a good texture. The diffuse map is the main design of the texture. It gives the animal color. The specular map gives the creature gloss. It tells the game how bright and glossy certain areas of the creature should be. For example, when it rains in Fallout 4, the game activates the specular map to make your character look wet. And the last is the normal map. The normal map gives the character the illusion of depth. Wrinkles, skin pores, creases, cracks, all of those are created with a normal map. Now, the mod author identified a number of errors that Bethesda published with the materials, textures, and meshes that came with their HD Textures DLC. With this mod, he fixed as many as he could. Sometimes it was simply compressing a file in a different way to dramatically decrease the size of the file. He also increased the intensity of most of the normal maps, giving these creatures much more detail. He applied subsurface scatterings to most of the materials. These make creatures look like they have real flesh. He fixed the way glowing creatures glow, and a bunch of other really cool stuff. These textures are 4K because this is, after all, based on Bethesda's HD Texture DLC. What a difference, right? It may not be everyone's taste. In my personal opinion, I think the normal maps are a bit too intense, but it's still a wonderful addition. Now I'm going to focus on three creatures real quick because there are three other mods that add further detail to these creatures. First is Detailed Feral Ghouls by ERKPROK. This is my absolute favorite ghoul retexture of all time. He made it completely from scratch, and in my opinion, it's extremely lore friendly and looks much better than the original. Here's the vanilla version. Here's the version that came with GIGGILY's HD DLC retexture. And here's the version that came with ERKPROK's Detailed Feral Ghouls. I've been using this mod for quite some time, and I absolutely love it. Another option is More Vascular Super Mutants by DPilari. This mod gives super mutants big, pulsing veins sticking out of their skin. It may not be up everyone's alley, but it sure makes super mutants look a bit more intimidating. This is what super mutants look like in the vanilla game. This is the HD DLC retexture by GIGGILY. And this is More Vascular Super Mutants by DPilari. As you can see, a lot of great options, just choose the one you like best. Next is MIRELURK Model Fix by KANARUOO 00. So Bethesda originally intended for MIRELURKs to have these big, pink, vibrating gills sticking out of their face, but they made a mistake. The UV maps in one of the MIRELURK meshes was set incorrectly. This causes the gills to be covered up by this thick, muddy-looking substance. We know this is a mistake and it was not intentional because if you look at the concept art for the MIRELURKs, it has these big, vibrating, pulsing gills right on the MIRELURK necks. And the gills are there in the model, they're just hidden by this UV map mistake. This mod simply corrects the mistake. Here's the vanilla MIRELURK, and here's the MIRELURK with the mod installed. Yeah, I know it's kind of hard to see because the shell of the MIRELURK is casting a shadow, but if you get up on under there, you can see those big pink gills sticking out of the MIRELURK head. I know, it's one of those small things that you probably never noticed, but now that I've pointed it out to you, it's going to bother you every time you see a MIRELURK until you install the mod. It's a great little touch. Thank you, KANARUOO. Well, now that we're done with these monsters, it would just be a wasted opportunity if I didn't turn artificial intelligence back on and let them have at each other. Now let's talk a little bit about clothing. Bethesda made a bunch of materials mistakes when it came to making clothing look old. As you know, there are new and worn versions of many clothing items in the game. Most of them look fine, but there are a few pieces of clothing that have the incorrect material settings, which essentially make all of the old and worn versions of the clothing look new. Thankfully, a talented modder named NIKOMOLDOVA comes to the rescue with various material fixes. This mod fixes the materials for many of the clothing items in the game so that the worn appearance is applied to the correct item in the game. For example, I've got two settlers here wearing the trench coat in the game. One is wearing the dirty trench coat and the other is wearing the normal trench coat. But they look identical. After installing the mod, the dirty one looks dirty. The hem of the garment is all chewed up and the coat is all spotted. Here's another example. These are two different lab coats. One is the clean version of the Vault-Tec lab coat, and the other is simply labeled lab coat. This was supposed to be the dirty version in the game, but as you can see, they both look identical. The material is applying the wrong texture. After installing the mod, it works the way it's supposed to. The Vault-Tec one looks clean and fresh, and the other one looks like it's been worn for 200 years. Perfect. The problem also exists with vault suits. As you know, you can find a dirty and clean version of the Vault 111 vault suit. You can find dirty and clean versions of most of the vault suits in the game, with the exception of, I think, the Vault 114 vault suit. However, the problem is that the game uses the dirty vault suit material for every vault suit in the game, except for the new Vault 111 vault suit. Here we see 4 vault suits in the game. I didn't have room to show off the Vault 88 vault suit, but the problem is the same. On the left, we have the dirty Vault 111 vault suit, and to the right of it is the clean Vault 111 vault suit. As you can see, there is a subtle difference. The dirty version is much more dingy than the clean version. The blue color of the clean version pops out much better. To the right of the clean Vault 111 is a clean Vault 114. To the right of that is a clean Vault 118, and to the right of that is a clean Vault 81. As you can see, all 3 of those are dirty. Look at the shins, they're covered in dirt. Look at the upper thighs, also covered in dirt. Installing the mod cleans them right up. The dirty Vault 111 suit on the far left is still dirty, but the new vault suits from all of the other vaults are clean, just as they should be. The mod author says that he's fixed a whole bunch of other stuff, including army helmets and Vault-Tec security outfits. To see everything that he's changed, just install the mod. Thank you very much, NIKOMOLDOVA. Next up is More Skin Colors by ACACOPHONY. This mod author didn't like the limited selection of skin tones available to us in the character creation section of the game. He didn't give us crazy blue or neon green skin colors. No, he wanted to make a mod that had more realistic skin colors, so we added 10 new ones. Warm Dark, Warm Brown, Sunny Cream, Suede, Sienna, Golden Tan, Ebony, Crispy, Chiffon, and Blushing. I love options, and this mod gives us 10 more. Thank you very much, ACACOPHONY. Next up is Delightful Ivy by 83 Willow. 83 Willow was displeased with the way Ivy looked in the game. It looked kind of mossy, stringy, and it's probably one of the worst textures that Bethesda gave us. Looking at it up close, it just looks like a bunch of mottled colors. It's particularly noticeable if you're running on Ultra, because it just stands out, it's so bad. This mod completely redoes the way Ivy looks in the game. It gives you 6 different colors of Ivy that you can install, including a grayish, burnt-looking Ivy that best fits in with the vanilla game. It's a nice lore-friendly, low-impact mod that, in my opinion, doesn't make the wasteland look like it's vibrant and filled with green life like many mods out there, but just improves on the blasted-out, withered appearance of existing plants in the game. They still look withered, but they just have much more detail, and that's the kind of mod I like to see. Thanks, 83 Willow. Next up is Cleaner Concrete by MLUPPOV. Now, there are a lot of concrete retexture mods out there because the concrete that we get with Wasteland Workshop is, it's just really bad. I don't mind the fact that the concrete texture we get with Wasteland Workshop is so weathered, but the problem is that the pattern is so unique that you get a lot of repetition. If you have 2 walls standing side by side, they look identical. They don't seamlessly merge into each other like they should. Cleaner Concrete aims to fix the problem by making the weathered appearance of the concrete a little less intense. It also has 2 optional versions that removes the wooden floor from the concrete foundation and the rusted metal supports on the edges. Now, if you install the optional version that removes the rusting metal, you're gonna get big gaps in the blocks that you've already placed in the world, like you see here. But you can use a mod like Place Everywhere to simply move the block down so that it sits seamlessly on top of the other one. So the optional version may not be best for people with existing concrete structures in their game. However, you can simply install just the texture portion to get this nice retexture. There's still detail in the concrete, but it's a little bit lighter, which helps mask the repeating texture issue. Certainly not perfect. You can see where the texture repeats when you put 2 walls side by side, but it's much less obvious. And it's a welcome addition to my game. Thank you, MLUPPOV. And finally, here's another one that you probably never noticed before, but now that I pointed out, it's gonna bother you. This is called Biff, Bobblehead Improvements, Fixes, and Furbish by Sparrow Prince. I probably would have called it Biffer, Bobblehead Improvements, Fixes, and Refurbishments, but hey, to each his own. This really cool mod improves the meshes and textures of both the bobbleheads and the bobblehead stands in the game. The bobbleheads all have bases that are really faceted. They don't look perfectly round. You can see these hard lines going all the way around. This mod fixes the base of the bobblehead so that it has a perfectly round base. The mod author also identified a bunch of issues with both the bobblehead stand and the bobbleheads in the game. There were shading mistakes. Some of the bobbleheads had clipping and stretching and big gaping holes in them. Sometimes, depending on where you placed a bobblehead on the stand, they weren't placed in the right way. The mod author fixed all of those mistakes and also added a bunch of new features. There's an optional version of the mod that actually makes the bobblehead heads bobble. That's right, they actually move. And if you look closely at the bobblehead stand, you do see big fluorescent lights in there. However, they don't actually light up. There's an optional version of the mod that causes the lights in the bobblehead stand to actually emit light. Isn't that so much better? It's a minor thing, I know, but it bothered me for quite some time, and I was really grateful when Sparrow Prince released this amazing mod. The nice thing about many of these mods is they're sort of just set 'em and forget 'em. Few of them come with ESPs, most of them are pretty easy to install, and most of them don't negatively affect the FPS of your game at all, with the exception of the 2 high-resolution texture mods. That means you can simply download it with Nexus Mod Manager, activate it, and you're done. You never have to think about it again. It just merges into your Fallout 4 world, and it feels right at home. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Those are the texture and mesh mods that I have been working with recently, and I thought I would share with you. This was my Creatures special with some other stuff added in there. And never fear, because I'll be publishing many more mod reviews like this in the future. I release a new video every single day of the week, so if you would like to be notified the next time I publish a video, be sure to subscribe to this channel. I have a brand new t-shirt shop where I sell a bunch of Oxhorn and even Fallout 4 themed shirts. So if you're looking to get an Oxhorn t-shirt, you can check out my Teespring t-shirt shop using the link in the description of this video. And if you like what I do and you want to support me in a more personal way, consider becoming one of my patrons on Patreon. Patreon subscribers gain access to a private channel on my Discord server, as well as a bunch of other cool Oxhorn perks. But more than anything, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just so glad that you're here watching this video with me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow morning, bright and early, with a brand new video.